Hello, my name's Tim. I'm a recovering idealist. Can we go to the first slide, please? I'm here to talk to you about how we got to where we are. We're all here, both at the conference and in the space sector, because we believe space is something that is exciting, that has the potential to change our lives, to make the world better. But at some point, that almost became dogmatic. At some point, that almost became a point of faith, that space is good because space is good. And maybe that's not right. I think space is good, but as I said, I'm a recovering idealist. How many of you believe in Santa? There's at least a handful. It's a quiz. There'll be an answer at the end, let you know if you're right or not. But what's the point of Santa? It's not that there's a creepy old man that watches you while you sleep. It's that generosity is a social good. We want children to associate good feelings with giving, not to literally believe that someone comes down their chimney every Christmas after watching whether they were good or bad. But we often, at least in the space sector, create this image of a perfect future that we're waiting for. You know, there's the jokes. We're waiting for flying cars. It's 2022. Aren't they supposed to be here? But why are we waiting for those things? We've painted this perfect picture and this vision of a tomorrow that's pristine and perfect and beautiful. But we're just looking at the inside of a mask. That hope for a perfect future blinds us to what we can do today. I was picked up at the airport by a young man who was a staffer for Ron Paul. Chris, if you're here, thank you for the ride. I still don't think I was the right person that you were picking up. But he was talking about how he's a staffer for Ron Paul. For those of you who don't follow politics, Ron Paul's a former congressperson. I agreed with almost nothing that Ron Paul said. Nothing that he did or how he did it. But that will always be one of the congresspeople that I respect the most, because he had a very clear set of ideals and principles, and he would not waver. He was very intellectually honest. He knew what he believed. He acted in accordance with that belief to his own detriment. And I didn't like him because he wasn't effective. He didn't get things done. But I do respect that he had that idealism. And part of what I didn't like about him was that was a little bit of me. That I saw I had that potential to become dogmatic and unwavering and fixated on something to the exclusion of all others. Humanity's gone through periods where we've allowed that to become the norm. Western civilization was set back hundreds of years in technological development because we had to fit everything inside ideals. The Earth's the center of the universe. Why? Well, it has to be. We're here. We did this for generations, and all because we lost sight of the first principles that created that idealism. It wasn't the ideals that held us back. It was that we built an edifice around them to support them because we didn't trust them to live on their own. Now, as I said, I'm an idealist. I'm recovering. Admitting you have a problem is the first step. This is how I like to tell people what I want for my birthday, for Christmas presents. I don't want to use words. I just want to stand there, sit there, exist, and you to know what it is I would like. That doesn't seem so hard. I know what's going on in my head. I know what I want. It's a lot of work for me to let that out. But I recognize it doesn't get me anywhere in life doing this. I only recognize it because of years of trying, and it turns out it doesn't actually work. I've not run scientifically valid experiments, but with an N of 1, I can tell you it didn't work. I've spent a lot of my life looking for perfection, growing up in an environment where that was valued. And it wasn't until I realized that you could either have something perfect, or you could have something that was new, that was worthwhile, that was indeed what you wanted. And it was the very act of looking for perfection that paralyzed action. Looking for, how do I make this just right? It's still there. Before I got up here, we're setting up the stage, I walked around. Some of the curtains aren't quite folded right on the ground. They don't sit quite right. But I wasn't asked, did it look perfect? I was asked, does it look okay? Oh, it does look okay. And the idea was, we could start at noon, and it would look perfect. Or we could start 45 minutes late, and it would look okay. Over the past several years, a lot has come out about the effect of these dots in the sky. For the 3 people here who don't know what they are, there's no reason you should. Most of us live space day in and day out, and so we know that these are Starlink satellites traversing the night sky. They provide satellite internet to the ground, anywhere in the world. Technically not anywhere right now, but eventually they'll get there. But a lot has been made about this, not because all of a sudden we have the ability to project a Library of Alexandria into the hands of every living person. But a big deal's been made because we can't see some of the stars on the other side of them. Whose lives are better looking at those stars? Is it worth giving up, opening up access to the entirety of human knowledge to ensure that someone with a telescope sufficiently powerful to see the stars that may or may not be visible on the other side of those can see them? What does success look like for the space sector? For many of us, it's that future of flying cars, George Jetson, colonies on the moon, or yes, Dr. Zuber and Mars. But How do we measure when we've arrived? When humanity is truly realizing that space is good. It's when there's cartels in space. No, not because we need drugs to appreciate it, or because it's a dystopian future that awaits us, but because where people go, the worst parts of us follow. And if there's enough people doing enough good things somewhere, their vices will be present. And if those vices are present in sufficient quantity, those with the means, capital, and risk tolerance to service those vices will show up. So yes, having a colony on the moon, on Mars, populating the solar system are great. But we need a metric to know. And I choose this one. That's not because I'm cynical, but that is a natural next step when you let go of idealism. The assumption is, well, I had ideals, I had a grand purpose. That was dashed, that was false, so I guess nothing is true. It's not the choice. Those aren't opposites. Cynicism is just the absence of hope. The choice is between idealism and wisdom. You can have the same ideals. You can still believe in Santa, or at least what Santa stands for, without cleaning your chimney once a year to make sure that poor guy has a clean suit when he gets to the next house. It's not about choosing whether or not your ideals get polluted. They already are. You having them, unless you came up with them entirely on your own, sitting in a hyperbaric chamber, they've already been polluted. Because the only way to keep something perfect is for it to remain in your head forever. And so we commercialize Christmas. And so there's a military-industrial complex supporting the space industry. Nothing's perfect. The choice we have is not a future where all mankind explores the stars peacefully in search of scientific advancement, or a bunch of contractors getting rich off of taxpayer dollars. That's a false choice. That's writing your list for Santa and hiding it under your pillow. And waiting for someone to read your mind. No, the choice is, do you believe what you say you believe? And if so, are you okay with someone else believing 95% the same? If you are, will you work with them? Will you let their 5% difference make it so that they are not worth cooperating with? Because from the outside, it just looks like a bunch of us quibbling over semantics. When we're quibbling over whether Starlink satellites are too bright, that message that the rest of the population gets is, I can't participate because they don't care about things that matter to me. So we all have that choice. Are we willing to let our ideals out of our head and choose progress over perfection? That's not a choice I can make for you, but it is one that if you do choose, you have to choose every day. And I hope you make that choice like I did. Take care.